Hello, my name is Xavier Mercado, and this is Spearhead Conversations. Today, I'm joined by special guest Jasmine Tyler. Jasmine Tyler is the Director of Community Engagement and Execution for the Iverson Classics, nationally known for some of the most brightest athletes in the nation coming all together. She is also the founder of Keep Your Head Up Society. As a breast cancer survivor, she's trying to bring awareness and her ambition and her motivation, and has been an inspiration for the past year that I've followed. I reached out, she agreed, so here we are. So without further ado, how you doing, Jasmine?
I am blessed.
Yeah.
I am blessed. I feel amazing
Yeah.
at where I'm at in my life.
Yeah, you are, I will say this, you are one busy woman.
Yes, I am. I have 3 children, and we all have our own separate lives. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I even getting to this point, it just talks about how busy you are. I mean, you've been really an advocate for community here in Milwaukee, and that's one of the first things I've noticed about you. I want to just give flowers where flowers are due, and just say thank you.
Thank you.
Because this is what this city needs. You know, as minorities in this city, there's a lot of hurdles we have to go through to succeed in this world. And advocates like you open doors. You let these children see where they can take their potential. And I'm really excited. I was really excited for this episode, and I'm really grateful that you're here. So
I thank you for allowing me to utilize your platform to speak as well. So it's mutual, and I'm proud because when you reached out, I don't think you had started it yet.
Yeah, it was in the mix.
Beginning. Yeah. So to see that you actually went through with it was inspiring, and it's dope. You know, just to watch it transition into something to what it is now.
For sure. Yeah, man. I'm at a point in my life where, you know, I stop talking. Let's get it together. Yes. You know? So I'm appreciative you're on here. And with that, you want to jump in?
Let's go.
Let's do it. So where were you born?
Here, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
All right.
I grew up on 14th and Burleigh.
Okay.
My grandparents migrated from the South via Chicago in the 1950s. And purchased their home on 14th and Burleigh in 1959.
14th and Burleigh.
Yep. Burleigh Zulu.
Hey. Well, I was born in New York.
Okay.
I was born in the Bronx. Still got family there. And then we moved here when I was 6 months. My family followed my abuela. Okay. And then my abuela lived here for a little bit. And then she moved back.
She was like, nope.
Yeah, it was 16th in Greenfield. Okay. For that, it was 21st in Beecher. We hopped around. Yeah. But got a love from Milwaukee.
Yes. Yeah. A deep love. It made me who I am.
For sure. Well, how was your childhood?
My childhood there's 2 sides. It was very traumatic. Yes. But also my family taught me, meaning like my mother and my aunts. Our family we had our issues, but we were a very loving family, very traditional growing up. But my mother took a different route than what her sisters did. And in a result, I feel like she may have felt like she was on an island by herself, which forced her to raise her children in environments that necessarily wasn't conducive. Okay. You know? Mm-hmm. But as I got older and became an adult, I learned to embrace that. Yeah. I'm actually in the second phase of healing from traumatic situations of me as a child. Yeah. I feel like that's very important. It is.
You know, through these episodes that I've done, I've mentioned that my stepfather walked out. Mm-hmm. And for the longest, I held on to this. And I finally came to the realization of, why am I talking about it? Yeah. How about you go out and get these answers? Yeah. So as of recently, I reached out and we've been talking and in a way to move forward because it's very important.
Yeah.
I don't come from the best. I won't say that my upbringing was bad, but we definitely had our barriers that we climbed through.
It was like, like my mom's house and then his grandma's house.
Yeah, sure.
And everybody in my family grew up at my grandmother's house. My aunt, who passed away, my auntie Netta, she didn't have any children, so she was like a second mother to us. But for the most part, I try to hold on to the things that I recognize as making me who I am today.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to let go of the tragic things that happened, so that I won't be constantly in defense mode when I'm maneuvering throughout the world.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to recognize that I was always in survival mode, always in defense mode.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until I started to hear from others that I wasn't approachable per se, which I'm like, what? Like I'm probably one of the easiest person, people to talk to. But it took me a while to really realize how messed up I was based off of things that happened when I was younger.
Well, good for you. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the bravest things us as humans we can do is really confront.
Yes.
Confront traumas.
Yep.
I commend you because as I'm going through it right now too, and it's the weight that's being released from my shoulders. I know you can relate to this, but it's definitely I've come a long way.
I have too, and no one has ever asked me that in an interview, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I was at first a little reluctant, and I'm going to be completely transparent in real time because I feel like we are in a point in the world where we have to allow others to hear our testimonies so that they can fully understand how we got to where we are, right? So at 5, we stayed on 16th and Kiev, and we got robbed. And I woke up at 5 with a gun pointed in my face. So from that incident, I've never been able to get a good night's sleep at night.
For sure.
And it's always been traumatic, especially when you have children. It's like, I couldn't imagine my 6-year-old going through that, right?
Man.
By the time I got to 9, I was molested.
Oh, my gosh.
By the time I hit 14, I started to smoke. I was smoking weed heavily, in which now I know was a coping mechanism or
For sure.
And I got pregnant at 18 and had 2 children by 20. And even though I was young, I always had like my own house, car, job, stuff like that. I was very self-sufficient. But I didn't realize until now how much I had been through. And I've learned to give myself grace, which I feel like is extremely important.
Well, I got to say, thank you for being an inspiration. I mean, not many people could come out and just say that.
Yeah.
You know,
and I've never said it publicly.
But the bravery within that, the transparency, the people do need to hear these testimonies. This is reason why I've created a platform like this, because there's so many beautiful souls within this city that I feel are overlooked and not given a chance. One of my biggest things for here is integrating all the ethnicities that make Milwaukee. Yes. You know, and through that, it's trying to tap in to our core. Because I mean, I bring this up more than once. When them Bucks went to the championship, you seen Milwaukee at its
at its truest self.
You seen what that Deer District looked like, and for the first time in so many decades, you've seen the unity and the power of our city. And creating the platform, I wanted to tap into that. I wanted to bring that together. So thank you for going into that. That's as brave as can be, and I really commend that. As a child, now you went through these trials.
Right.
We got through these hurdles.
Yep.
What were things that took your mind off of the daily struggles you went through?
My dreams.
Yeah.
My dreams is literally what kept me alive.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. Through the trauma, there was a lot of happy moments as a child, primarily because where we grew up at on Burla, it was a community. So the families that lived on the block had been there since the 50s with our family. So we were one big community, right?
Yeah.
But I learned at an early age in second grade to utilize my dreams as an scapegoat.
Yeah.
To just dive so deep into them to where my reality was not my reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a gift and a curse, because when you're young, it gets you through. But when you become an adult, you don't realize that it's time to snap out of it.
For sure.
To a certain degree. Mm-hmm. But the dreams is what kept me moving and kept me going. And I'm glad I never gave up, because I'm accomplishing them now.
Oh, you copy time, general, you name it. Like I've seen you over this past year. Like I said, I've been following and just the mentality that you bring in it. It's been amplified through the accomplishments you've had just within the year that I've been following.
Yeah.
So it says a lot. Music was a big thing for you growing up.
So I actually started, before music, I started poetry in second grade.
That's how I got on the music.
I love, there was my older cousin, we call her name is Jasmine too, but we call her Big Jazz. She would go into her house, she would have every word of poster on her wall. The first rap group I was introduced to as a child was Bone Thugs and Harmony.
All day.
Then followed by Tupac Shakur,
yes.
MC Light. Like she was a huge hip hop head. And although I didn't know then and there that I wanted to rap, it was, the start of something brewing inside of me. And I remember going to school. I went to Hartford Elementary by UWM. And I remember going to school, and my teacher assistant, Dr. Pugh, she was my favorite. She was like, I'm going to put you in the African American show for Black History Month. Yeah. And we're going to have you do a poem. So my mom went and got the African material and bought my mirror, everything I needed.
Get it.
And she called Miss Maddie Bell Woods, rest in peace. And she put me on the front page of the Milwaukee Courier in 1990.
Look at her. Look at her.
I'm not going to say the year, but just know it was in the 90s. So I think as a child, seeing my face on the newspaper was like, I wasn't super excited, but it was different.
Yeah.
And by fourth grade, I started entertaining what it would be like to make music, although I didn't dive into it until later on in middle school, because I started basketball after the poetry. Yeah. And I dug deep into the sports world.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How long did you do basketball for?
I started in fifth grade. I didn't stop until maybe 10th grade.
Okay.
And even then, I didn't stop. It was just, so I started the poetry, started basketball in fifth grade. I was actually standing in my aunt's kitchen, and Iverson was playing. That was his rookie year.
Good old AI, the crossover.
When I seen him, it was like, I've never seen nothing like that before. And I'm a child, so my intentions are pure. It's nothing other than this man looks like a superhero running up and down the court. Followed by that year, Cheryl Swoops.
Okay.
Made her way into the industry, into the sports. And that's when it was a realization that I could do what he did, because now I see that a woman is doing it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I played basketball at Hartford, fifth grade, and I put in an application for Sammy Morris Middle School, which was for the gifted and talented, and I got accepted. And when I got there, they didn't have a girls' basketball team. Wow. So I felt like, well, first I have to back up. I have to shout out my cousin April, because she used to take me to the Journey House in elementary school on the South Side to play basketball. And I would wake up every morning in the summer to teach myself how to walk the ball, because I wanted to have the handles like Iverson. I wanted to be the only
Isn't
girl,
that crazy? It was Iverson and T-Mac for me.
I love, before Iverson, it was Penny Hardaway.
Penny.
But that was really because of his shoes. You know, it was like the flyest kicks back there, right?
I got a funny story about Penny shoes. I got my hands on some size 9s back in 2007, and you
they
know, Pennies, they were definitely too big. I'm a size, at the time I was a size 7. Children feet.
Oh my gosh.
And I wore them. I would wear them. And I thought I was super cool. And it was like, no,
what
stop.
Are you doing?
What are you doing?
But so they didn't have a basketball team. So I joined the chess club, and I was just intrigued by, you know, the mentality you had to have in order to play chess. By 7th grade, still no basketball team. Although I was playing outside of school, my dream was just to play for a school. But it wasn't happening, and I was becoming frustrated. So I started to find other things to do.
Fulfill that want,
And music came up. So it was, I seen Sherrod Sloan's, Oki, and George. They were all rapping at the lunch table, beating on the table, rapping, 7th grade. And then I'm like, I want to do it. You know, so Sherrod wrote my rap. And then there was Christopher Buford and Francie and Tawan and Tank, and they was the other team. So now it's like,
we got the originals out here.
It's Platinum Click versus y'all, right?
Yeah.
So I remember 7th grade was the first time I recorded a record in the basement, and the door was a mattress. We didn't know what we were doing, but it was so fun.
Yeah.
And I heard myself, and I took every artist I had loved, like Pac, Bone, and I created this person, you know, in the booth. And I will go on to be known for being one of the best female rappers in Milwaukee throughout my teenage and 20s.
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't the only talent you had.
It wasn't.
Because you just full of surprises. And who would have thought that you acted?
So, acting, and I promise I can't make this up. You can ask any of my family members, right? I first gained an interest in acting when I seen Juice.
Oh, got you.
That was one of my favorite movies. Now, whether I was old enough to watch it is a different question. But we're not gonna go into that. For that, right? But I was so intrigued by every character, and I had the hugest crush on Raheem. I felt like Raheem, which is like he was, you know, he was cute. He was. I think all the young ladies back then had a crush on Raheem.
Yeah.
So later on, 8th grade, I ended up auditioning for the African American Children's Theater. And my acting coach happens to be my K4 peer teacher,
okay,
which was another full circle that I had not recognized, you know, at that time. And I met Ray Nitty's wife, Amanda.
Oh, wow.
We both started acting there. She was a little bit older than me, but I love, you know, hanging around her. And it was one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had. So I realized that although I love acting, I like running shit, you know. So writing scripts and directing and stuff like that is really where I seen myself. And I put so much energy into the music that I forgot about the acting. Yeah. So now that I'm not doing music, I've been focusing more on writing scripts and getting behind the camera and, you know, into film.
Man. Is there anything you can't do? Well, you know, community is something that is, that's the advocacy for that from you.
Yeah.
Why is it so important?
Because it made me. Where I grew up in the 90s. I was born in the 80s, but I grew up in the 90s. And the 90s was a critical time because I feel like that was the last time where there was a real sense of community where everybody in the neighborhood
we were
knew
outside.
each other. Exactly.
Yeah.
We all took care of each other. One parent could check your kid without you feeling offended. You know, kids weren't disrespectful. But my community raised me.
Yes.
And early as I can remember, even as a child, I've always wanted to help people, right? So I've done that. I didn't do it on a larger scale until I remember I was in Atlanta, and I had to be about 22 at the time, but I was real heavy into my music, and I was getting known throughout the industry. And there was a case in Milwaukee with Derek Williams, and it happened on the east side. And I felt the need to use my voice. You know, as in my influence. And this is literally like right when Instagram and Twitter started. So the incident didn't happen during that time, but by the time I got on social media, it was becoming, you know, a big deal. So for me, it was like, I'm gonna go back home and see how I can help. And Tory Lowe, he was the one who was working with the family. And I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I seen this on the news. And I didn't know Derek personally, but he just looked so familiar. And we did end up, you know, finding out later that we had a lot of mutual friends. But something called me to come back home and to get involved. And I just wanted to see if the influence I had in music would force other artists to do what we used to do back in the 90s, where we would take our platform and actually, you know, utilize it to give back. And I sat through the entire case with the family. We did marches, you know, protests, everything. And to see every cop get on the stand and plead the fifth was so sickening to me. And I remember as a child hearing my aunt talk about Ernest Lacy. And her apartment, he was killed. He was assassinated by the cops next door to right on the side of her apartment building. And I remember her talking about it. And growing up, my auntie Netta, who passed, she was probably the best. Her and my aunt KK were the best examples I had of Black women who were strong, who were fierce, who were about, you know, somewhat about the movement.
They understood, you know, the type of voice.
Exactly. So after that, I felt like I can't stop now. And I ended up doing this song called American Dream. And I shot a video to it. And that's when I realized that I could no longer do music in the capacity that I was doing it in because I was contributing to situations like that. And I made the executive decision to either not make music or make music that was of a caliber that could speak the truth and put some healing back into our people.
Well, you've been working fiercely. From what I see. You created a program. We Locked In. And well, why don't you tell everyone what that program provides?
So last year there was an incident. Matter of fact, it was it wasn't when the Bucks won the championship, but it was, I want to say we was in 6. We was in 5 or 6. We was close, basically. And it was an incident at the Pfizer Forum where...
In the Deer District?
Where people were shot. And instantly, everyone started blaming the kids.
Oh, for sure,
Even though the report shows that it was adults, everyone started to blame the children, which forced me to understand that there were targets on their back. And I have 3 children, but I have 2 teenagers. So I called Ray Nitty and I called Von Mays.
Okay.
And I'm like, yo, like what can we do? So I ended up calling Chevy, the mayor, Mayor Johnson.
Cavalier,
And I was like, we have to do something, you know? So he issued a curfew, but I'm like, we have to do more. So me and Von sat down and talked about some things, and Von actually came up with the lock-in program years back. He tried to implement it, and, you know, certain people and organizations would take his ideas and stuff like that. So it was a mutual contribution from all 3 of us. So we sat down and had some conversations. We started raising funds just from the community because we wanted it to be community-based, you know. anytime us as a people put money into something,
yes,
we feel like we're included.
So
I felt like that was exactly. I felt like that was important to have the community contribute, because then they'll have, a say so, and like you said, they'll be more invested. So shout out to Kevin Newell. Kevin Newell of Royal Capital Group actually purchased the old YMCA in the Meadows and allowed us to use that space the entire summer to do the lock-ins.
Yeah.
And the lock-ins, it's a bi-weekly program, overnight program.
Awesome.
So back in the day, we used to have lock-ins, whether it was at church, skating rink, YMCA. But the idea was to put a twist on it. So we would do the lock-ins. We would have parents and community members volunteer. And then we will provide breakout sessions for activities for the kids. So sewing, basketball tournaments, gaming. And each kid will leave with something, $50 or something. Yeah. Everybody's leaving with something. They're going to have some good food. And it's one of the best collaborative creations that I've ever been a part of. And I'm extremely grateful to have Vaughn and Ray stand beside me and work with me to try and, assist the youth to the best of our abilities.
Well, this is what I'm going to do. You guys, good for you. I mean, God bless y'all. Because, again, we have the next phase of life coming, being raised right now, man. What are, through these past 3 years of COVID and all this confusion, it's programs like this that become a safe haven for these children who don't have nothing. Yeah.
And we've managed to get the youth that nobody else want to deal with, right? So they talk so bad about the kids that's they're unreachable. They don't listen. And we've never had an issue.
Yeah, no. Because you're able to understand. They feel that the understanding is there.
Exactly.
You know exactly what they're going through. Yep. And I with our education system, not to beat down on it, a lot of these teachers question, why can I reach the student?
Yep.
It's your approach.
And you're not relatable. Exactly.
Well, becoming the change you want to see is a big thing. And for you, that became something purposeful.
Yes.
You ran for Alderwoman of District 9 here in Milwaukee.
Yep.
You're a mother of 3.
Yes.
So I can only understand from that standpoint, it's ultimately you wanting to bring a community together for your children and the children in the city.
Yes.
Go more into detail with what brought you to that decision.
So just to set the record straight, I was actually asked to run.
Oh, okay.
And that's not towards you. I just
for sure.
Told anyone, but I was asked to run, and I contemplated on a while whether or not, because I like my privacy. And when you run for office, all of your information is public, from your address to your phone number, everything, right? And some people don't play fair, But for me, it's like, I don't even know, and I'll be honest when I say this, I don't even know if I cared if I won, right? The goal, the definition of winning to me wasn't necessarily sitting in that seat, but rather the fact that I was able to get people who have never voted and don't believe in the system to come out and vote. The fact that I was able to get a better understanding of what people go through on a day-to-day. And to be clear, we had already been working in that district with the lock-ins. Yeah. Although I did not have any intentions on running during the startup of the lock-ins, I did feel great about being back in that community when I was running, because I understood the dire need of the circumstances surrounding that particular district. There was a youth prison that was coming and still is. There were a lot of elderly people who were dealing with the issues with the stolen cars. It was just like a forgotten zone. All of the resources were pulled. Yeah. And because I've worked in politics before and I've worked for an elected official before, I know that a lot of resources at the city are limited.
Yeah.
And I felt like I could utilize my network and my resources to bring some great things to the city. But going back to what I originally said in the beginning, for me, it was more so pulling people together to accomplish a bigger goal.
Yeah.
By the time I got closer to the election, I hadn't given up. I just realized what God did.
Mm-hmm.
I never told you were going to win. I never said that I put you in this position so you can win. I needed you to make a statement, you know? And I had videos from so many different people, influencers, celebrities, different, right? And it wasn't about name dropping, but it was more so to show what happens if we all came together for one cause.
It's unity. You inspired me, not because of that video, because I know what video you're talking about, but as an independent Black woman going against the odds of a system that's already in place.
Come on now.
That don't invite outside noise.
Yes. And that's why, not to cut you off, but that's why I didn't want to win, because I didn't want to compromise.
Yeah.
You know?
That is, from what I've seen, I even changed my profile for your little...
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You know, the banner.
Yeah.
I changed my profile the night of the election, or the day of the election. And that inspired me. You
appreciate that.
Taking a stand like that. Around the time I was in connection with Nitty. So there was many channels of knowing who you were, and I felt like you did bring that.
Yeah.
You did bring a sense of unity, because it even pulled me into it. You know, like, it's the statement that could be said if we all just, they could call our city small, but it really isn't. And I be telling people this, we are not a small city. We are numbers.
Yes.
And just understanding the volume of the impact we can have.
Yes.
What do you think from that experience you took from the most?
First and foremost, I'm one hell of a hustler.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that started at a young age when I started braiding hair. And that's when I knew that I can do anything, right? But the fact that I could get up, go to work, run for office, take care of 3 children by myself, take care of myself, help my parents, and still be there for the community.
Yeah.
On top of the projects that I had working on.
Yeah.
I felt like there's nothing I couldn't do. You know, stress, yes, I was tired a lot, but I needed it. I needed it so that I wouldn't be comfortable.
Yes.
I needed to get back to a state of boots on the ground in grind mode.
Yeah.
So that I can always remind myself that nothing is going to come, easy.
For sure.
And I also took away our people are so intelligent, and they confuse them not voting with not caring, but rather the fact is they understand much more than what people think, and reminded me to understand that there are certain systems, like you said, in place that we will never be a part of, and that you're running into a brick wall because the system is in place and is set up to work the way that it's working.
Yeah.
So we can't dismantle something that is working the way that it's supposed to be working, but rather we have to figure out how to maneuver through it and work together.
Yeah.
And I think that me being who I am and coming from where I come from, there were a lot of people who was talking shit, of course, because they've never seen somebody like me run for office, right?
Yeah.
But then there were people who were like, yo, you really did it.
Yeah.
Like, you really got out there and ran.
At the ending of the day, Jasmine, you stood for something.
Yeah.
And I think that is an accomplishment in itself. you did it by yourself.
Yes.
When I say by yourself, you took that stance, and through that, a whole community backed you.
Yes.
Don't think that there weren't people out there that voted for you. You know what I mean? You
I
knew.
know it was. And I was like, when I see, and for context purposes, it was a special election.
Yes.
Meaning that we only had a certain amount of, time. But for me, when I seen the numbers, I was like, I didn't care that I didn't win. I was just like, yo,
you did.
These amount of people actually, voted for me and believed in me. And I hopped in a race late.
Yeah.
Like there was people who had been running since July and elections were in February. I didn't hop in until December.
Yeah. Oh.
So I did that in 2 months,
Bravo, man. Bravo, man.
I'm like, yo.
Man.
But there were times where I would, it was one time in particular, I was laying in my bed and I was like, you really done did it now.
Yeah.
You really done hyped your ass up to run for office. And now you got everything out, right? Your address. And I was freaking out because I've been such a private person. Like, I'm not the person that people come to my house. I just always been like that, unless it's my children's friends. Like, I'm the one that always go over my family's and friends' house. So the thought of people knowing and having access to, like, my whereabouts and me getting random mail, it was creepy to me. And I've learned that I will never do it again because I truly love my privacy, but most importantly, I don't need a seat at that table to help my people.
That's right. You don't need to sit at that table to know the impact you make in the community.
At all.
And with, man, that right there says everything. I think with you and just the research I've done, I think you're a special type of person. You've been through what most haven't. And I will say you're a breast cancer survivor.
Yes.
And with that, you created a foundation, Keep Your Head Up, society. First, take me through what it was like for you when you received that news.
Yeah.
And what led through the journey of, during that duration, to form the foundation you have now.
So, let's see. Tomorrow is actually 5 years of me being in remission, which is,
God bless you,
coincidentally the last day of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But it was initially, it was hard because my aunt had our favorite auntie. No slight to my other aunties. Let me say that.
They go see it.
I have to find another word to use. But the reason why I say that is because she was like a mother to all of us.
Yeah.
But my auntie had passed unexpectedly from cancer the year prior.
Okay.
So my family had not grieved yet over that fully. And my son at the time was like 11, and he was like, Mom, are you going to pass away? Are you going to die like Auntie Netta? And it hit me so hard because I could not imagine like not being, around for my children. And then my cousin Quisha, God rest her soul, was actually diagnosed the same time as me, but she didn't make it.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So it was an uphill battle because I had to, and I don't use the word survivor anymore because I don't want people to feel like because their loved ones didn't make it that they aren't survivors, So now I say I'm a cancer fighter because I fought my way through and we all fought our way through. It's just God chose a different path.
Yeah.
But when I was told that news, I was so stuck. Meaning, so I was married for 5 years to my children's dad, who I've known since I was 5 years old. And we got married young, to be fair, but we had been through so much. And I literally taught myself how not to cry. So when I got the news, I wasn't in a mode of like just crying hysterically. I was like, okay, how the fuck I'm gonna beat this?
Yeah,
like
sure.
I was in straight survivor mode, which was cool, but it backfired because I wasn't able to truly deal with what I was dealing with, right? So during that process, I remember one morning in particular, I woke up at I set my alarm at 6 o'clock. My sister will always try to get me on the prayer line. I'm like, I'm not getting on the prayer line.
Yeah.
I set my alarm for 6 a.m. My body woke me up at 5:59 on a dot, and I sat straight up a minute before. And that was the first sign, like, okay, it's something that I need to take in.
Yeah.
And when I got on the line, she said some things that
resonated.
Man, I still have it in my notes. That was 5 years ago. I still have it in my notes to this day. And one of the things she said was that God was going to build me up privately and bless me publicly. Okay. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So I made a deal with God that because he saved my life, that I would do it his way now. You know, I always knew I had a purpose. It's just that I was straddling the fence. I would dibble on his side, but then still entertain this side. Yeah. And there was a quote I read that said, because you are not hot nor cold, but lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. And that's basically like you can't straddle the fence. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to choose a side in everything you do. So I made the executive decision to choose his side in that time and promise myself that I would do it his way and give him full control, not limited control, because I needed him to use me in a way that people would know that it was only him who did it, you know, and that I could not take credit for anything that was about to happen in my life. So once I went through that process, the first thing that came to me was to the youth. You know, how can I utilize my voice? I can't rap the things that I used to rap anymore because I don't live that life anymore. Yeah. But how can I still use my voice? Mm-hmm. So I created Keep Your Head Up Society. And the reason why I named it that was because that song had always been one of my favorite songs. Yeah. But it literally got me through my entire cancer recovery, dude. Man.
You ever read his book, his poetry book, Rose from the Concrete?
I got it in high school.
That is what set me on my journey with words. I'm a lyricist guy, so like lyricism is the impact of words. Yes. And that poetry book opened my eyes up to something I didn't even know I had within myself. And just, so when I hear you say that song, I remember 95, 96, when I'd hear that in the middle of the night, waking up, hearing that song, and just, there was something different about it. Yeah.
It was. And there's there's so many words that he used in that song that resonated with me. And it took me back to my childhood. And it also made me feel like, whatever you do next, make it count.
For sure.
You know? So I had an idea like, hey, I'm real big on history. I'm real big on books and our history, to be exact, right? And I thought to myself, why have they stopped teaching about our history?
Oh my God. I've had this conversation during my time that I was in high school, middle school, high school, they taught this.
Yes.
And now with my children going through school,
they're not teaching it.
They don't teach it no more. I have a 13-year-old right now. She should be learning about this.
Yes.
You know, you got statues across the South of all these type of generals and all these people that, you know what I mean?
Right.
History.
Yep.
But you want to ignore the other side.
But you want to ignore that.
Yeah, and there's...
Our history did not stop at the civil rights movement.
It can't.
And that's what was disappointing to me. It's like we have kids who were born in the 2000s who are thinking that our history stopped in the 60s. You know what I mean? And it's disrespectful to people like us who grew up in the golden era. Mm-hmm. And I felt that it was important to make sure that these kids understood that there was history after that. And I've always respected not just Pac, but all of our great leaders, you know, just various of leaders who paved the way before us. And I felt like they needed to understand who these people were, right? So the funny thing is, I've never said this publicly either. I actually reached out to Pac's sister when I created it. I didn't get a response probably because it's a little weird to DM somebody.
Yeah.
But I did it out of respect. Like, hey, I want to create this curriculum based around the body of work of Pac, and the proceeds can go to the Pac Foundation. You know, I'm not looking to capitalize off of it. I just want to get the history part into these babies' head. Yeah. So we did 5 songs. We did Keep Your Head Up, Brenda's Got a Baby, So Many Tears, Me Against the World, and I can't remember the last one, but we did 5 songs. Each song, they had to write a paper. That was the intro. Brenda's Got a Baby, Teen Pregnancy, Keep Your Head Up, War on Drugs, So Many Tears, Suicide. Yeah. You know, I mean, Me Against the World, Suicide. You know, it was taking the context of what he was saying and putting it in the form in which they could understand.
I don't think people understand when you call Tupac the greatest of all time. It's not so much about the body of man he was. It's about what was in his words, what was in his message, down to his name. The meaning behind that. He was a beautiful man.
Yeah, and a lot of us was raised off of, so going back to like the whole Iverson thing, right? Yeah. You know, my parents were in the streets. Yep. So a lot of people who were born in the 80s but raised in the 90s, a lot of people in the entertainment field raised us. Yep. So we looked up to them just like you would look up to somebody in your neighborhood. And he was one of those for me. And to me, I felt like it was absolutely disrespectful to the culture for these babies not to understand what he was saying and why he was saying it, especially because they were still going through it. So Kaylin, rest in peace to Kaylin, she and Anthony McHenry at Milwaukee Academy of Science allowed me to come in and do, get a contract and do the curriculum. So they would write the papers, then we would work with producers to get a beat, then we would make a song and show them how to register it to BMI or ASCAP, then put it on, you know, the platform so that they can get paid. But it was a whole process. And then the pandemic happened and that kind of shut everything down. But I felt like I still needed to figure out, you know, how I would do it. So I just recently rebranded it into actual society, meaning like I want to partner with different organizations who do different things so that we can exchange resources, but all of the resources are based off of helping people and based off of spirituality. So just being able to guide people based off of my testimony alone, and then have others who have been through similar testimonies use their resources and their insight, you know, to kind of gather people and assist them on a journey.
For sure.
So that's where we at with Keep Your Head Up Society right now.
God bless it. Because, you know, like it's these type of, it's a mindset, I will say, you know, especially going through something like, I've seen it. God rest to my father-in-law. I seen what cancer could do in 2 weeks.
Yes. Yep.
When it really wants to amp up, I've seen what it could do. A fully weighted guy. I won't go too deep into it, but how aggressive it can be.
It was like that with my aunt. She had pancreatic cancer. She got down to 60 pounds. Yeah. And the strongest woman I know, one of them. Yeah. Literally, to see her so vulnerable. Yeah. You know, so that moment, and I say this to say, during my recovery, so many things was revealed to me in prayer. And once I came out of recovery, I felt lonely. Yeah. And it wasn't until maybe a year ago when I realized that I'm not lonely, I'm just set apart. And that people love to say, I'm a child of God. I'm walking his path. I'm doing his will. Not knowing that is hard.
It is.
It's a hard job. Mm-hmm. So I'm grateful for my cancer, and I'm grateful for the recovery, because the deal I made with him is why I am where I am now. Yeah. Everything that has transpired, all the accolades and accomplishments, the reason why I'm not a person naturally anyways who brag and boast, but the reason why I shy away from talking about it so much is because it's not about the people that you see me with. Yeah. It's about the journey that God took me on. Mm-hmm. And I tell this story because the people in this city, I feel like they had a feeling like when the Bucks won the championship, when they seen a picture of me at Iverson, right? Yeah. And the backstory to that is, ever since I was in 5th grade, all I wanted for my birthday was to meet him, right? Yeah. And it wasn't an infatuation of the average girl, like, oh my gosh, I just like him because he's cute and all of that. Mm-hmm. It was something about him and Pac that just drew me. Like, they were fearful. I mean, fearless.
It's the mannerisms. You know? It's the way you carry yourself.
They were fearless. And I literally wanted that every day, every year, right? And 2021, me and my best friend Sharika went to one of the Classic games. Mm-hmm. And then one of the co-founders, Bobby Bates, I ended up talking to him, and he started to see the things that I was doing in the community, and then brought Keep Your Head Up Society on as a community partner. So that's how I met Darius Miles. Okay. So I would go and get sponsorship for Darius events, and then we'll do a community event, right? And Darius, shout out to my brother, man, because he is one of the most genuine people when it comes to helping, and so is Bobby. And me and Bobby actually got the same birthday, which was dope. And we didn't find out, until later on. But Bobby Bates, I have to give credit to Bo, because he is the one that made it happen. Yeah. When we went to the Classic Week last year, they were doing the award ceremony. And when he got up there, he was like, the people that's underlooked, I'm tired of it. And da-da-da-da, and this young lady, she just got sponsorship for 200 kids and I looked to the people that was sitting next to me, and I was like, is he talking about me? Right? Yeah. So I didn't hear nothing else after that. All I heard was Jasmine Tyler, and I lost my shit. Wow. Like inside, because I was like, it was such a surreal moment that nobody around me could ever understand, because they was not with me during the times when I felt like I didn't know if my dreams would come true, or not even just with it being that one specific person, but just to dream and have it come true, period, right? Yeah. So when I got the award and I got off the stage, Chuck Iverson came up and he was like, where your phone at? Let's take a picture. And we took a picture, and he was like, people like us, we don't give up. Yeah. Like, nothing we do give up. And that was the first time I spoke in front of people I didn't know, and I told my entire story. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't in the past or the future. I was in that moment. Present, yeah. And I remember the year before I seen them there, I was like, you didn't get a picture all this time, man, da-da-da. And I was like, I'm going to see him again. I didn't know that. I just felt it. So when I posted the picture, some people who don't know me, well, or even with the whole Iverson Classic thing, they would take it like, some would take it like, oh, I have to attach myself to this because it's him and da-da-da. No, you have no idea what it means for your dreams to come true, right? Yeah. And in that moment, when the city seen it, I felt like I made other people, even adults, feel like their dreams could come true. Yeah, it can. No matter what, I
want to say entirely, I'm grateful you're in front of me. I don't think words do justice when I say I've been following, and the accomplishments I've seen you go through. Because in the same light, I want to bring change to this city. Yeah. I want to unify all these stories. What you represent in my eyes is you're a leader, you're fierce, and you are someone that is great. And it's looking up to people like you to know that I can create a platform. I can create a signature for my mark, my light in this world. And with that, yeah.
What legacy is more important than life?
Yeah.
So everything I do, I'm intentional. And what you just said is huge, because that's literally my thought process during my cancer recovery. What am I going to be able to leave my children? What will people say about me? You know, what mark can I leave? What impact can I make to make sure that the light I brought to this earth is carried on? Yeah. And that's what I'm out here doing. Like, I don't care about status or you being a celebrity or any of that. For sure. Matter of fact, I don't even go looking for it. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times it just comes to me. Yeah. But what I have learned to do was accept it, because I shied away from it for a lot, because I didn't want anybody to perceive me as, oh, she had, you know.
You got to embrace it. You got to stand in your light. And honestly, I said this today. Today I made 2 years of sobriety.
Yes. Let's go. Clap it up for that. Come on, man. It's a whole lot of celebrations.
But I say it like this. You have a light in this world, light it the fuck up.
Yes.
Because I'm done, sick and tired of dimming my light for others that don't appreciate what I'm doing. And you know what? I don't need validation. I don't need people. And really, like you said, I don't care about status. I care about the people who are making an impact in my community. Yes. That my kids, if anything happens to me, since August 4th of 2022, I've been releasing an episode every week. Yes. And that is every episode my children can use for a blueprint of what success looks like. Yes. So when I have someone like you, you've gone on to do great things. And through meeting AI, you've become the director of community engagement and execution. What was that like when you received that title?
Now, that was a time I did cry. And Bobby and Jay will tell you that, because they called me literally in the middle of doing a tour at Journey House for a lock-in. And Bo is like, his tone sometimes you don't know what it's going to be. Yeah. So he'll be like, Jazz, you know, sweetie, I just want to say, you know, we really appreciate. And I'm like, are they about to fire me? Are they about to say, I don't want to fuck with you no more? Like, what's going on? So I'm over here like about to cry, because I'm feeling like like I did something wrong. Yeah. And then Jay hops in and he says his spiel, and then Buzz like, we want to make you the director of community engagement. And I was like, are you serious? You know, like, for real? And he was like, yeah. And I cried. I cried because I think that was like the first time I really felt like it take a minute for stuff to process with me when I reach a goal, because I'm running and running that I don't even pay attention to the fact that I'm almost at the goal. And sometimes I don't even have a goal. It's just, I'm just doing the work. Yeah. So when someone, not that I have to be recognized, but when someone recognizes your work, it's a different feeling. And the reason why I was happy wasn't just because of that title, but because I know that Bobby is invested into these kids just as much as I am. And that's what I was most excited about, that's because beautiful. He gets it. You know, he understands. He has his own story, but he understands the importance of giving back to the youth and making sure that, and being one of the only All-American game that do it authentically and really go to the trenches, not for show, not to say, oh, we gave to this foundation, but no, you got Darius at the shelter cooking food with the staff and handing it out. Yeah. You know what I mean? You have Bobby going to a facility with children from the state and giving them shoes and clothes, you know, and just buying breakfast and spending time with them. And it's like, this is what the work is all about, right? Yeah. So I'm just grateful that God used people to use me. Yeah. Not misuse me, but to use me. Yeah. You know.
Who do you think have been mentors and influences that have guided you, not only to get to this moment, but in the moment you're in right now?
The first person that came to my head is Ray Nitty.
Nitty.
And I met Nitty in 2009. I was actually the first female on his label in 2010.
Oh, wow.
And Nitty has transformed into an amazing man, father and husband. And I have so much respect for him. But it's the one-off conversations. Sometimes it's not the quantity, but the quality.
Yeah.
So I don't look for an everyday talk. I look for the talks where it comes at a time so organically when you don't expect it, but it's everything you needed in that moment, right?
Yes.
And that's what Ray does. Like, he'll send, it could be a text like, keep going, man, I'm proud of you, or just instilling in me that I'm going on the right direction, because he is a person who know me to be who I used to be years ago.
Yes.
So I think the benefit in the music piece too is that people have actually watched me grow up, because I got on the scene at 15 here. So they actually had the ability to watch me grow up. So the advice that he gives me and the encouragement he gives me, and reminded me to put my blinders on and to not worry about the noise and the chaos around me, is something that I rarely get, because I'm always the one giving it to people, you know? My big homie, Mike Kimmett.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike is an OG. And the thing I appreciate about him is his transparency. He's never going to tell you what you want to hear.
You need to appreciate people like that, because there's a thin line between structured criticism and honestly negativity. Because man, there's some people that, I can't understand structured criticism, but if you're starting every conversation on a negative note with me,
I can't do it.
Can't do it.
Because your energy is not coming from a place of love and peace, And the last two is my best friend, Shanika C. Bella. She's an artist, a rap artist here. Me and Shanika started rapping together at 8th grade.
Yeah.
And she has never judged me. No matter what decision I make, she has never judged me. She has been nothing but understanding and an open ear. And I think that is so important in friendships and relationships, because you have to know when your friend needs you to listen and not give advice, And she's done that our entire friendship. Like, it feels so good to know that I have one person I can call about anything in my life.
You need that.
And know that she's going to hold me accountable, but she's going to ride for me. And she's going to uplift me in a way that nobody else can.
It holds the foundation. It brings you back to the foundation.
Yes. And she does that. She always, I call it back to the basics.
Yeah.
When Jasmine Tyler, is like talking, and she bring me back to the little girl on 14th of Burleigh.
Yeah.
And you need that. You need it. And last, my father.
Okay.
My father, I'm extremely proud of the man that he has become. And he had a life that I didn't know about until a few years back, as far as some of the things he endured. But every day, whether it's Bible scriptures, whether it's me helping him with his sermon to preach on Sunday, whether it's whatever, my dad, I could talk to him about anything, and he not going to give me the runaround. He going to spit it to me straight, and that's important, because I didn't always have that when I was younger with him. So it's coming. I've learned to accept that the things you need may not always be there from the beginning, but they will be there when you need it the most.
Yes.
And for me, right now, I need my father more than I've ever need. And he's been there for me in a way that he has never been before. And I'm grateful for that.
Man. Well, God bless all those people you named. I met Ray Nitty and we interviewed, and what
dope.
Man, he's inspirational. There was a touching moment towards the ending of the interview where he started talking about our youth.
Yeah.
And it got emotional.
Yeah.
And to show that type. So I just want to say that with him, he really touched a chord with me and the respect that I have for him. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I'm going to try to answer this the best that I can. And I say that because I've learned to set goals, but not really, because once I realized that I have no control over my life and that God does, I've learned to only plan for what it is that he had for me, which is almost impossible because sometimes you just simply don't know.
Yeah.
I can say, hey, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. And then he'll be like, oh, that's cool. But that's not what's about to happen. You know?
Yeah.
What I will say is that whether it's a year, a month, 5 years, 10 years, I hope to be in a space where I can help as many people as possible, whether it's financially, mentally, spiritually. I feel like my calling is so much more than what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I think the frustrating part is I'm trying to get there at a faster pace than what I'm supposed to, which is why I've kind of stepped back and taken time for myself to kind of heal. But I hope to be in a place where I can assist a large amount of people at one time and globally, not just in Milwaukee, not just around this country, but all over the world. I really feel like my testimony can help people. I really feel like the grace that God has given me will allow me to help others find themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, at that age,
Man.
I'll be grateful just to be alive.
What advice would you give? Now, I usually say for the youth because this is primarily what I wanted, but you go beyond that. You're in the community. You're boots down, like you said earlier. What advice would you give for the struggles that you know of that the community endures on a day in, day out? Words of encouragement. What would you give?
Number one, don't stop dreaming. I don't care how far it seems. Don't stop dreaming. Eventually that dream will come a reality, right? Pray for clarity, because we are living in a different time. And if you don't have God's clarity, you won't know how to maneuver. Pain is temporary. And if you learn how to embrace everything that you're going through, in that moment, you literally can understand what's happening and position yourself to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Because that's the ultimate test in life.
Yeah.
When trials and tribulations arise, we get stuck in that one moment. Why me? Why am I going through this? Well, because you just went through this last year and you didn't learn then.
Yeah.
So you have to be completely vulnerable to the fact that A, you don't control your life, God does. B, you have to embrace everything that you go through and be willing to let go of any feelings towards people, things, situations that may have you stuck in a mind frame of being hateful and resentful.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done because it took a while for me to get past that. But wherever there's anger, there is no peace.
Yeah.
People who are angry cannot make a conscious decision on what to do that's right. And it's not that you shouldn't be angry about certain things, because you should, especially the conditions that we live in. But don't wait until you spiral out of control mentally before you seek help. Don't wait until it's your child who is out here, dead in the streets before you get active.
For sure.
Don't wait until the last minute to do something, have compassion for your brothers and sisters and be understanding, and not just in a subjective way, but rather the fact that what happened to us as a people is so large that we can't even begin to fully break down and understand how much work and how many years was put into making us live in the conditions that we live in.
Yeah.
So when you see your brothers and sisters out here acting a fool or they're going through something, understand that 9 times out of 10, they don't even realize what they're doing, because they have completely conformed to the ways that the oppressor said that they should live. Exactly.
It's a system. I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
I really felt, I love all my interviews, but this is an important one, because throughout this interview, you've exemplified what greatness looks like, and just a voice for the community you come from. You've never forgot where you come from.
Ever.
And that I can appreciate. And that I can, honestly, I take pride in. And just watching you flourish, it's there.
I appreciate that, because not to go too much longer, but people don't I think that we have to do a better job at showing people what we've been through instead of the end result.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these kids only see the end result, which is why they're looking to get it at a faster rate. We have to start telling our testimonies and being okay with telling it, because it made us who we are, and it gets us to where we, are when it comes to achieving success.
I agree. What are ways people can contact you?
Social media, I'm on Instagram at The Jazzy Effect. My email is info@kyhusociety.com. I'm sorry, kyhusociety.com. I have to say this.
Go ahead.
I have learned to balance my relationship with the community with my personal life, because there was a point in time where people would call me all night long. Or inbox me all night for everything. And although I'm flattered, you have to be mindful of what people go through, you know, and what their life is. So if you reach out, please reach out with intent of knowing that I can get it done, but also that I'm not about any foolishness, you know, because there are people who really need help. And if you are not one of those people, don't contact me, because my mission is to help the people that truly needs the help.
Man, you a blessing. But I want to say thank you. It has been an honor, a pleasure conversating with you. And I just want you to know I respect you. I'm a fan of your work. In any way, reach out to me. In any way I can help you move messages.
Yes.
These are what platforms are made for.
Yeah. Same here, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
For real.
You know, we as a city need to unite. We need to understand. It don't matter what background you come from.
Yep.
We all can understand how to be there for each other.
Yes.
So with that being said, thank you again. Spearhead out.